Well, man, it's good to see you. It's been forever.
It has. I can't even count how many years, right? It's
Probably
been,
like 5, 6, 7.
I know a lot has changed in both our lives
Oh
since the
my
last time.
God. Oh my God. Well, before I forget, welcome to Make Your Own Fun. I'm here with Scott Kaestner. We're going to catch up. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. Hopefully, he'll read a couple of poems for us. I know you just had something published, I think just a couple days ago, right?
Yeah.
Congrats on that.
Thank you, man. Appreciate. Always good.
Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, I'll start by asking you this because we're both dads now, so I figure this is like appropriate. The change in your creative time from like when you would normally work on stuff from before you had kids to after. So for me, I want to say my prime like writing time before I had kids was like maybe like 8 p.m. to midnight.
Right.
And now it's like if she's off like doing stuff with friends or if she has a weekend with her mom or something, then for me it's like 8 a.m. to noon. And then it's like ever since like I've had my daughter or whatever, I feel like I'm in a constant state of running errands, or like did I run the right errands, or like do I need to run more errands? Is that you too?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's always
There's always
as
like
any.
something for like the school or something where you're like, wait, is that this week or is that this weekend, or do I have to get in the car like right now? Like, is such and such place still open?
It's so true. I think absolutely now, now more than ever, right, with everything we're going through as parents and all the extra things we have to do because of COVID. My Lord, like it's
Crazy.
just like managing emails from the school alone is like that's like a part-time job in itself.
I always feel like I'm on top of it, and then I'll get like emails over the weekend from the school, and I'm like,
Yeah.
who's like they're not at the school, so it's like who like what teacher or principal is like sitting at home. I always feel like it's like a Sunday night at like 8:30, and they're like, wait a minute. And they're writing some email and it gets to the
Yeah.
parents and they're like, if you could just turn that in by Monday morning. And it's like, wait a minute.
Right,
8:30 at night on a
exactly.
Sunday, like these projects are really important, so if you could just get on that.
That comes after Monday morning coffee, right? Like, yeah,
Oh,
no.
but I get it. They teachers really had like the worst of it. Like teachers and like healthcare workers, like these last 2 years, it's just like healthcare workers, at least they're like in the same place. They're in the buildings, the medical facilities and the hospitals. But like the teachers, it's what like their jobs just morph. It's like what even is their
Right.
job?
No, I have two teachers, I have three sisters, two of which are elementary school teachers. And I think on the fly teachers had to learn how to, do online instruction, right? Like, okay, we're going to keep moving forward with curriculum. And now you have a whole new medium to do it. And good luck to you. Yeah.
Oh God, it's just crazy. Like
It's
I,
nuts. Yeah.
I know my daughter, like for this current year, she had like 5 or 6 textbooks to pick up at the beginning of or middle of August. And I think that they've just pretty much just stuck with those laptops.
Yeah. My daughter's the same. Pretty much all
And it
done.
kind of
Everything on
breaks my
laptop.
heart. And I don't know if you feel the same way, where it's like I feel like that generation of people like maybe 17 on down, there's just the last 2 years, this gradual pull away from physical books,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
across the board. It's like, man, and it's like I'm not gonna like force her to do anything she doesn't want to do. It's like once she got the iPad, though, it was just like, oh, this bookcase is kind of collecting dust over here. But
Uh,
it's hard to argue with having all that at your fingertips, especially like books, internet, whatever. But
it is hard. I think we can do it. Like I make sure my daughter and I, like, every night before she goes to bed, we get a physical book and curl up in bed and read a little bit out of it. So hopefully pass it on to her that way, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We had like
The
a
love of touching.
belated Christmas because she wasn't with me for that holiday this year, and then like she was. I remember a couple weeks ago she was telling me like, no books. I don't want this. I don't want that. And then a few years ago, I'd given her Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein, and
Oh yeah,
she
fantastic.
loved it. And
Yeah,
she
that's fantastic.
memorized like half the book, and she had to do like a poem in front of the class, and she loved it. And so this year I got her A Light in the Attic, and she opened it up and she was like, saw the back of it, and she's like, book or whatever. And then when she turned it over, she was just like, her whole face lit up and she was like hugging it. I had to take a picture real quick because the way like the preteens are, they're either like, take a picture or they're like, eh.
Right, yeah,
They
no, no,
always
no,
like
no.
just got it. And it's just a great moment because she's still at that age where she has that connection, that love of reading, where it's like if you find that one thing, that little avenue into it, like you can still have that influence and still reach out and do all that stuff. So
Absolutely, yeah,
I mean
for
for
sure.
now.
Yeah, you got it. And like to answer the question about finding writing time, I think as any parent who is juggling parenting and writing together, like whenever you can, right? Like any moment I can, whether it's in the bathroom taking care of business, doing that as well, wherever you
Oh my
can.
God, it's like that's why we
You
have
find the
kids, right? We're
spaces,
sitting there in the bathroom and
for
you're just
sure,
like,
man.
wait a minute.
I'm not gonna even lie. Some of my best stuff and a lot of the stuff that's been published and got some recognition, like in the bathroom.
I have to
Yeah.
say, because there's a couple of short ones that I've seen online. I think on Facebook they were like 10 lines or less, and I'm like, is that a bathroom poem? I think he had
Yeah,
time to be like, grab it, get it
and
out.
just do it. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
this is something that I've asked a lot of writers too, is whether it's your own family members or your friends, have you been out places where you get that little lightning bolt zygote of an idea and you're just in the conversation and then you just slowly drift out of the conversation and you're like looking for a napkin or a pen or something and they're like, what are you doing?
uh, the answer is 100%. Yeah, absolutely, man. I think as poets, especially, because sometimes I think like the initial idea of a poem isn't as much, let's sit down and write. It's like it's exactly as you described it. It's like that moment where it's like it's just that urge where I have to excuse me for a second. I have to go take care of this and either get your phone out and peck at it or get a pen out and jot it. But absolutely, yeah. And I think it's those little bursts of lightning that, right, you have to capture, like at
Well,
least if
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
the
get
little zygote, it's not gonna like feed itself. So it's kind of like you have to, the worst is the expression that people tell me that I get on my face where it's just, I don't know if it just looks like I'm having a seizure or something. I'm just like a little ferret or something, like I'm
oh,
looking
that's
for
funny.
something and they're like, do you need a minute? And I'm just like,
All right.
you just,
Yeah, time out. Do we need to call 911 or is
like,
Eric writing a
why
poem
are
right
you like trying to scoot out of the booth like a Muppet or something?
uh, no, but for sure, man. I think absolutely. You have to capture those moments, and I think once you explain it to people, like like I sometimes I just do check out, and I'll be back. I'll be back.
Like other
I
people that
do
are
need a
writers
moment.
totally get it. They're like, oh, you got a thing, you're in it. Like, yeah. But other people like family members or friends that aren't writers or creative in that way, they're just like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, everything, but I don't have time for that.
Yeah, no, it's like you gotta capture those moments. And I think like remember, the bathroom is always a place you can shut the door
The
and people
sanctuary,
won't bother you. Yeah, people won't bother you.
the sanctuary is the
Turn on the
locked door in
fan.
the 3 foot room. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Turn on the fan and you get a little white noise behind you, you're good to go.
Yeah. So take me back in time when you were a kid and just let me know like what were some early influences or what did you read or you saw something or maybe you heard a music album that had great lyrics or like some spoken word that you were like, I want to do that.
A great question. Well, I think like you know, I think the writing, the first I can remember like it manifesting itself was I would go visit my grandmother in Pennsylvania, and I would wake up, you know, early in the morning and write like, you know, little newspaper articles about what I knew was going on, or whether it was snowing outside or whatever. So that's the first time I can remember, like, you know, wanting to write and sit down and do it, you know, do the work. And then as I, you know, got older, I think the first influence was kind of musically and poetically at the same time, was becoming listening to the Doors.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely got into Morrison pretty heavily, like in high school, and, you know, wrote, you know, lyrics and put them up on my bedroom wall and that sort of stuff. And then I really think in high school, I think the first time I read Jack Kerouac's On the Road, I was like, wow, that's amazing. I want to, you know, in some way mimic that and do that, you know. And then that turned me on to all the beats. So I started
Did you
reading
ever see
Ginsberg.
the scroll that he wrote that thing on?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Who
It's
just has a
crazy, right?
scroll and they're like, this is the way it will be? I'm like, I don't know, man. That's like, there's no, not even out of the box thinking. There's no box. There's just, it's going to be
No,
written on a scroll.
absolutely. And I think what I learned from like that is just like, you know, just dedication to writing, to just do it, right? Like don't, you know, don't edit yourself, you know, don't censor yourself, just do it, you know. And even as much as, you know, I write and, you know, I try to have at least a daily thought where I jot something down. You know, the volumes those guys wrote, like Kerouac or even Bukowski and those guys, like, oh my God, it's the
And you
volume of
know
it.
that like on a scroll, like he had a false start, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
man, it's on there. If it's on there, if you want to see
Yeah,
it,
right,
whatever, you know.
right. And nowadays, us as writers, like we have no excuse. We have this digital keyboard that's with us everywhere we go. So, you know, like just to stay at it, right, and to do the
You know,
work.
and I'm glad you brought that up because I was talking to somebody else about this the other day, and I almost think that people with computers or word processors in general, it's like they're almost like too precious with stuff,
Right.
because I think that even young writers that I talk to, I feel like they're so concerned about coming over as like profound or making
Mhm.
some grand statement that's never been made before. Whereas I try to tell people it's like it's a total evolution. Like you're not the same person at 15 as you are in your 40s. You're just not having
100%.
the same thoughts or concerns or worries, or emotionally you're not even developed. So it's like it's great to be able to go back and look at that stuff and see that what you came from, because if you want to just sound like somebody who's 45 when you're 15, that's kind of boring, because
Yeah,
you
right.
you
Absolutely.
should write about what you're going through, because only you know what's inside of you that you're dealing with, because we all know high school is like a shit show, and it's a
Yeah,
real gauntlet of like emotions to go through
yeah,
all that stuff. And it's like I just wish more younger people would just pour that out rather than be like you know, just as a random example, like I want to write novels like Stephen King. Like, yeah,
right.
well, no one has that kind of free time.
Right. No, no, exactly. And I always think, you know, as a writer, as an artist, you know, you have to do the living too, right? Like you have to get out there and experience whatever it is you throw yourself into, and from that's the constant well that you draw from, right? So, and like you said, life is an evolution. It happens day by day, minute by minute. So reflections are going to change, emotions are going to change, and you'll get to the profound, right? But you got to muddle through the shit first, you know,
And that's
and
why I
just
like
do
when
it, and just
right,
do
and
it.
that's why when I hear or read, I guess we're not really hearing a lot of stuff right now unless it's on Zoom, but um when I hear these young people kind of like stumble, trip, and fall into something profound, to me, that's much more interesting and honest and believable, rather than somebody just coming in and I was kind of making fun of myself in another interview the other day where I was like, you know, punching the world
Right,
like in a
right,
poem or in a performance or
right.
something, and it's like, you know, you'll get there, you'll get there. It's just like what you were saying. So, um, what do you think when you were younger got you up in front of like a crowd at an open mic versus just being like that scared kid reading like a book report in middle school or something?
Yeah, I think that came much later, actually. Like I wrote kind of in private, from high school even through college, and even in my 20s, like pretty much, I just wrote in private. And a friend of mine one time was coming over, and we were, sitting around drinking beers and smoking bowls, and he happened to open up the journal, and he went through it. And he was like, wow, he's like, some of this is good. Like, have you ever thought about like sending this out or whatever? And I was like, not really, and just whatever went on. And then he kept at it. He kept saying, hey man, did you send anything out? Like, I like what you write, and you should see what other people think. And so I was living in St. Louis at the time, and I found through, I think like a random flyer at the library or something, there was a bookstore that was having like a poetry contest. And there was no fee, right? Like I don't like entering stuff I have to pay, even to this day.
The submission
But anyway,
fees are
so
horrible, yeah.
yeah, right. I submitted a poem, and I think I got like third place, and I won like
Wow.
25 bucks and $50 of bookstore credit. So at that time I was like, wow, okay, maybe
Maybe there's something to this.
maybe there is something. And then so yeah, then I started like submitting out, and like any writer at first, I aimed super high and was like, I'm gonna publish in the New Yorker, and and work my way down to like, okay, all right, and then just went through the process of like submitting. And at the time I did it, it was like that's when you had to like, it was like sending resumes out back in the day. You remember, you had to like physically print out your poems and write the cover letter like a resume,
Invest in whatever
send
company
it
made
off,
manila
right?
envelopes.
Exactly. And then wait like 13 months till the Harvard Review has time to tell you your poetry is not for them.
They're like,
But
oh
then
yeah, sorry, we were using those cheaper airplanes in our break room. Yeah, sorry about
right.
that, kid.
But then like the next genesis came when I moved out to LA. I was like, okay, this is a change in my life, and I'm gonna get the guts to go up and read poetry. So when I moved out here, after I got settled in and everything, I found an LA Weekly, found reading. I was living in the West Hollywood at the time, and it was the midnight special in
Oh, everybody always
Santa
talks about
Monica,
that.
yeah, and a lifetime friend to this day, the Reverend Dave Wheeler. So yeah, I stumbled in there, and I met a bunch of misfits like myself, and then I just sort of evolved from there to where we are today. So
That
yeah.
that's amazing because I always feel like we find our tribe, we find our like-minded people, whether by hook or by crook. It's just trial and error. You're gonna go places and it's gonna go badly. Like I wish, somebody would have told me that like back in Ohio when I was trying to do like open mics and stuff when I was really young, to just like I wish somebody would sit me down and just like be like, look, I know you think you're like the shit and all that, but you're gonna fuck up. It's gonna go
Yeah.
bad. People are
Yeah.
gonna ignore you. They're
Yeah.
gonna continue to drink their coffee or their alcohol or eat their finger sandwiches. And it's not so much like you're gonna go up there and read 10 lines to rapturous applause. That's not gonna
Right.
happen. Like
Right. No,
just
it's
gonna
not.
go up there, you're gonna read your 2 or 3 things in 5 minutes, and then you sit the hell down and the next person comes up. And it's just about like learning their routine and like, I mean, I just remember I don't know if you were the same way, but I remember like middle school, like doing like book reports about
Oh,
horrible historical events or whatever, and just standing in front of the class with my loose
the worst,
paper
right?
and like hearing like little titters in the
Yeah.
back if it's not going well, and you're like, fuck man, I just want to sit down, I don't want to do this. And
Right.
then but then like by the time you're in high school, I think like you're with your clique, you're with your little friends, and you're kind of already sort of doing like Saturday Night Live bits to each other at the lunch table, so you're already kind of performing. and
Right.
then
Right.
and then the more like people you can be around, and that you're at somebody's basement or whatever, a party or something on the weekend, and so then you can kind of like do stuff for each other, where there's always like some guy who pulls out a guitar or somebody who does a poem or something. So I think it just naturally comes from that. But like it took me like a long time, man. I don't think I did performance poetry until I got to LA the second time I came, like 2006.
It's I can, you know, close my eyes and remember just how nervous I was and how much my heart was beating, you know. And luckily the group I was in front of was, you know, just a real warm collective. And you know, and like you said, you stay at it. It's like anything, right? It's like the first thing you wrote to where you are today, the first time you performed to where you are today. Like, yeah, it's an evolution. And but I remember being so nervous. And like you said, I think the first time I like messed up or stuttered on a line or whatever, like I kept that with me for a couple of days. You know, I was like sitting at work a couple of days later going, oh man, like and I think what you're hoping for in any sense when you get up there is it's part of the process, right? I think as writers, you know, it's a good thing to do it, whether you're a poet or, you know, a novelist or a playwright. I think to get a read in front of an audience is important, to edit the work from, you know, people's reactions and ears. But yeah, it's certainly a nerve-wracking experience till you get used to it. And then like now, it's almost now like it's funny. It's sort of switched where, like you were saying, you'd riff with friends and you'd feel comfortable. And then the first time you read, you know, in front of a room full of strangers, you were super nervous. Now it's almost the reverse for me. Like in front of strangers, I'm totally cool. But like if I'm like reading a poem to a group of friends, having some wine or something, I'm a little nervous. You know, I'm a little more nervous. So
But now it's almost like I think
yeah.
probably been doing it for so long. It's almost like automatic pilot, right?
Yeah, and like and breathing techniques, right, and calming yourself, and you know, yeah, and like you said, not just letting go, don't take yourself so seriously. I think sometimes as artists and particularly as poets, you know, just don't take yourself that serious. Have fun with it, right?
No,
Like
I never have, it's worked so far.
right. Like if you're not, it's like anything in life. If you're not having fun with it, then why are you doing it? You know, so if you learn to not take yourself so serious, I think it's a good lesson to learn.
Let me ask you this, and you can answer it or not answer it, or answer it however you want. But it's just like so uncomfortable to think back to like early days of the scene, and there were just like so many like beautiful women, so many beautiful poets, and being like enamored with them, and like and just having like crushes and stuff, and like writing whatever you want to call it, love poem, like at somebody, and then when they don't like get it, or they don't they're like whatever about it, you're just like, oh man, I agonized over that like 3 fucking days. Like, oh, I feel like such a piece of shit. Oh god. And then you realize later that they were just there to like hook up with some other biker dude or something, or somebody.
Right.
You're just like, oh shit. But that's the thing about like poetry, man. It's like you reach so far inside yourself, and to follow that vein of honesty of like, I'm really gonna do this. I'm really gonna get up in front of like you said, a room full of strangers, and you're gonna like bear it all on a microphone in a spotlight, you know, probably on a raised platform, looking down, and you're like, and they're just like, yeah,
I know, right? No, it's you see the guy in back taking a nap, and you're like, oh man, like, oh god, that, you know, and like I said, I think learning to it's like learning to deal with that, you know, that you know, it doesn't matter, you know, that you connect to everyone, you know, but somewhere out there in that audience was probably someone that was like, yeah, cool. You know? Unfortunately, it wasn't the girl. The poem was
right.
But,
never.
You know,
I mean, I won't say never, but it usually isn't. Usually, it's just then you're like talking to the person later, and you're like, so about that one poem where like for love I used the metaphor, and they're like, yeah, that was kind of like shallow and pedantic, but I like the other thing, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, right. Oh, great, another love poem. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was horrible. I don't know why I picked that. Yeah.
Unrequited love.
So, I believe that you have gotten out, not so much last couple of years, but like out and performed in other cities. That's correct, right?
Yeah, I've kind of I've been pretty much all over Southern California at least, reading anywhere down from San Diego up to Ventura.
Nice, nice. Now, when you were in St. Louis, did you hit any open mics out there, or
I
was that
did
just
not.
like way back in the day?
I never have, and I feel like I should, as part of my catharsis as a writer. I think I should, get back there and read, because I never did. I like yourself, is like I promised myself when I arrived out here in LA that I'd get out and do it, and I've never been back to St. Louis and read, but that's something I should do.
I mean, I just figure you got like maybe
That's something I
a
should do.
built-in audience, or like at least family or something. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, no, 100%. Or just turn it back to, like, pick. Well, I guess probably can't get the local independent paper and print anymore, but I could get online and
Right, right.
and figure out where local reading
I think
happens.
it would probably go over really well in San Francisco. I haven't played there in a while, but yeah, I had a really good reception there, and they were like really welcoming. And there's like, at least this was like 9, 10 years ago, but they had like 4 or 5 like really happening like open mics.
Yeah. I've been to San Francisco, and I've never dug a reading up there. And as a beat poet, I should
At least
pay
go there to go
pay
to
homage
the
to my
lights,
roots.
right?
I've been to City Lights. I've
Oh,
been to City
okay.
Lights. So yeah. I've never went to hit an open mic up there, but I definitely should do that as well. I should take notes on this, man. I should be writing this stuff down.
I'm not like some guru or something, but I mean, I've always wanted to read in like Portland and Seattle. I've heard they've had like really good local stuff going on there, just like arts just across the board, And I've,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to read in Austin, Texas, and I've never been.
Yeah, Austin, that little oasis in
The little
Texas.
island.
Yeah, the little island, the little tiny dot. No, absolutely, man, absolutely. I know. I think South by Southwest, I believe, has some sort of spoken word or poetry
I think so,
component.
yeah.
If that ever, I don't even know if that's happening. When that starts happening again. Yeah.
I know, and it's so strange too, because I feel like now we're in 2022, things are going to be opening. People are a lot less silly about vaccines, hopefully. And
Ugh.
I just talked to a friend of mine, and he said, yeah, things are really happening again, starting to like open up and be good, and like in Chicago, and like New York too. But for whatever reason, they're having like a really bad time of it in like southern Canada, like Toronto, Vancouver. I don't know what's going on up there. They said that they're just back into almost like lockdown. I'm like, man, come on, don't tell me that.
Yeah. I think what I've had this conversation with myself. Like I'm sure you with your daughter. I'm like, yeah, at some point in time, my daughter is going to be home for a while, whether it's because she has COVID or there's some close contact policy. We actually went through that. She didn't have COVID, but I think she was at PE, and next to a kid outside who they were unmasked at the time, and she had to stay home for a couple of days and to get like 2 negative COVID tests. But I was just talking to my wife just yesterday. I was like, I feel like this time around, and the virus has mutated, and it's while it's still a very serious thing, hopefully if you're vaccinated,
Yeah, I mean,
you
as
can
long as you follow
ride this one out.
wear a mask.
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't got my booster. I still need to get my.
yeah, me too, man.
I
Me
always
too.
I thought over the holidays was going to be my time to do it, and then there was always like I said that next thing and that next thing, and
Yeah,
I don't want to be in like mixed company, because you have that that next day where you're just useless. You're just
right,
totally
exactly.
and like melding in with the couch.
Yeah, you got to plan a day. You got to have a great day right after to just do nothing.
Yeah, you have to clear the boards and just like, all right, time to get caught up on Cobra Kai, I guess.
Yeah, right. No, I promised myself this month I'm gonna get it. I think I was fully immunized like the beginning of June, so
Yeah, oh yeah, you're totally good.
I'm due. Yeah, I'm due.
And then
But yeah,
no excuse, because I literally, here in Fullerton, there's like 3 or 4 CVS's I could just drive to in 5 minutes and get stuck and be done. And there's no line or anything.
Right. Well, it's, you know,
It's just that
don't be,
next day where you're like, oh man,
yeah, yeah,
what if
yeah,
someone calls me, or what if I have to reschedule something, or
exactly. I feel I'm like any middle-aged man. I hate going to the doctor, and I'm like, over COVID, I was like overdue for a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, you know, I have a dental visits, yeah, turned
right. I mean, me
50.
too. It's just I backlog all that stuff, but
Right, so it's like it's out there. We both we'll make a promise to each other right now. Let's
yeah,
go
yeah.
get our boosters. Yeah, we'll get
Get
boosters.
it done before the
Yeah,
end of the month.
yeah.
Cool. So tell me about, I believe you just had a book out just at the end of the last year, right?
I did. And I think it hit the streets in like September, I want to say.
Okay, so you want to tell
Yeah,
everybody about that? Hey, okay,
there
cool.
it is right here. There's the cover on it. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, it is entitled "Swimming in the Aquarium of Now."
Where did
Uh,
the cover photo come from?
it's a stock photo, yeah,
Nice.
stock photo, but one that spoke to me as a poet, and I suppose as a Nirvana fan, because it does remind me a little bit of the Nevermind cover.
That's
But
true.
that's cool if that's I'm cool with that
Awesome,
correlation.
awesome. So
So yeah,
were you able to, because I had a book out the year before, and I'm sure you went down the same avenue of like almost all promotion was like Zoom and
oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. I've done, done some readings and promoting it, but it's all been done via Zoom. So, yeah, hopefully when all this craziness gets out there,
And I gotta tell you,
we'll
man,
get that.
I'm gonna sound so old, but it's like I have not been able to. Some people my age have gotten into it, but I have not been able to get into the TikTok stuff.
Yeah,
And I know that's like 15 seconds and you can promote and talk about anything, and it's just like, man, it's too visceral. It's too like in my face. I don't know. I gotta do it though. It's
yeah, right. It's where I'm old too. I'm still on Facebook.
I got to get it on Instagram. I had some stuff and then I took it down. I had Twitter and I took that down. And it's just like, I got to
it's
get back on Instagram and promote. I mean, even just for this show, because we're starting to get some subscribers and people are like,
yeah,
when's the next
absolutely.
show, asshole? I'm like, well, I took a break for Christmas. Yeah, but when's the next show, asshole? Okay.
Yeah, I have an Instagram account, but it's in my dog's name, and
That's
it's actually been a fun little project because I've started like I should say my dog Mocha has become like this alter ego personality that writes poetry on Instagram. So I do have an Instagram, but I'm just having fun with it. I'm not doing a lot of promotion.
hey, man, it's what it is.
Um,
You got something.
yeah,
You got something
yeah,
out
yeah.
there. So tell me about like, are there any other kind of projects, like writing projects that you either have in the works or like you're gonna ease into here in the new year?
Yeah, I have started to actually my poetry too has started to evolve into almost like these little some more vignettes or like short story, mini short stories, micro short stories, and I do have a short story that I've been working on, and I need to put the finishing touches on it. It's about a guy who for the first time ate a bunch of edibles and walked into Costco, and right as he went in the door, the edibles kicked in, and and it's kind of I've had fun with it. I haven't dusted it off in a while, but yeah, it's just been fun, and it's sort of got this weird like fantasy element to it that I'm not sure where that came from, but
I mean,
yeah,
write it out, man. I mean, you never know. I mean, the for me, for short stories, the hardest thing is it's like getting the time and just sitting down and doing it, because the best short stories for me are always like 3 to 5 pages, and the bulk of it is in one sitting, because like it's almost the same as a poem but a little bit different, where a poem it's like I got to sit down and just, it's usually half a page or a page.
right,
Short
hammer it out.
stories, like I guess the dead fish analogy comes into it, where it's like you let it go for like a week or two and you come back to it and you pick it up and you're like, oh man, this doesn't smell as fresh, and like
Yeah, right, for
what was
sure.
it thinking, and I don't even know what this other character, what was this person going to come in and do. So I mean, I know it's tough and time is limited, but I don't know.
It's hard.
It's a
I
long
think of
time. I don't know how to say it, you know?
no, and I've read some of your short story works that you published, and they're excellent, man. And it's
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
think I think like writing prose is it's I tend to it's I think it's more work, honestly. Like
It
you said,
is.
it's
Oh,
hard
yeah.
to hammer out. A poem is sort of just, you know, you burst it out, you get it out, and then you go through whatever editing process to get the version that you're comfortable with. And that can happen, right? That can happen in 30 minutes if, you know, if you're cool with it. And yeah, like you said, like I think I wrote the bulk of the short story, and then I just kind of left it. And I've come back and I've added to it, but then you know, I'm asking myself, like, all right, well, where are we going with this? Like, how are we going to wrap it up? And I don't think I've answered at least the latter question. I think I still need to figure out. But I think as a writer, right, like back to the evolution thing, it's like it's always fun to dabble, right? And I think
Oh,
wasn't it Kurt Vonnegut that said find something and suck at it? Essentially, I know I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, like, you know, like just dabble, have fun with it. You never know where you're going with it.
well, you know, anything you can do to get out of your comfort zone and just
Yeah.
like I'm fond of saying the thing of just getting out of your own way. Like, for example, um, a couple weeks ago, I interviewed poet Betsy Mars, and she was, I mean, I'm not going to say anything bad. It's just she was really timid about like being on camera and having her to present herself and be jovial. And I was like, don't worry, I'll just be like a jackass and I'll be like the waka waka honk honk. And you can,
Right.
the person just talking about your life and reading your poems. And then she said even later, like, you know, thanks. Like I got out of my comfort zone. And it's like, well, it's not like I'm holding a microphone like in front of you and like
Right. Right.
hard hitting like current affair kind of question. Like, I try to present it just as like a conversation, but it's so amazing that when people don't have those barriers or the pressure or the stress of having to, you know, produce something like in the moment, then if they're just having a conversation, like stuff just comes out in a conversation just naturally, and you don't think about it, and we're just having fun and just shooting the shit. So I mean, I'm a big believer in that, and I have to eat a little bit of crow just because I feel like in the last couple of years I haven't been able to like push myself to do
Yeah.
stuff that I'm like, oh man, I know I'm capable, or I know I should try this, or like the TikTok stuff or whatever. But it's like I'll get there, but
Now
yeah,
it's
you know.
right. Don't you think? I think as an artist, like the moment, you know, you're in a situation where you feel your heart start racing, where you feel your heart start beating, you know, and you're somewhere new, you know, whether physical or in digital space these days, but like that's a good thing, right?
It's
You're
a
in a place
totally good thing.
you're in a place you need to explore, you know, your heart's beating fast because it's saying, you know, take me there, take me there. Let's
I
figure
always,
this out.
I always feel like in those situations, when I was younger, I would kind of like freak out or flame out or crash and burn or whatever. And then I got, you know, older in my, you know, 30s and 40s and stuff, and I started to realize that like you need to like appreciate this moment. And basically what the big epiphany I had was this is being alive.
Right, absolutely.
When
100%.
you're in that like, oh my god, what the fuck am I doing, like this is gonna go so bad. Well, it's kind of like an image I like to think about is like not a kid, or you could just be an adult or whatever, but standing on a beach with a boogie board and like the waves recede and like a rogue wave or like a tidal wave is coming to you, and it's like you could turn and you could run, you're never going to outrun that wave. So
Yeah, man. Yeah.
you're, this is your life, this is being alive, you know.
100%. I love ocean metaphors, man. So props to that. But yeah, 100%. Like get on, you know, like, let the wave take you where it's going to, and enjoy the ride, right? And
I mean,
I think
it's like you have to survive to a certain point and eat and breathe and all that stuff and take care of your family or whatever. But at the end of the day, too, it's like I can't tell you, and you don't have to jump on this if you don't want to, but I can't tell you how many pointless, soul-sucking, like temp office jobs I've had just in the time that I've been in LA. to pay bills and have a car and have groceries and stuff, just so I can also be creative and do that, because I feel like if I would have committed like years ago to just do one thing, I would have been that guy at like, what's that movie? Office Space. Just literally like doing the least amount of work and then staring at the clock and doing the least amount of work and be like, oh my God, is my time on my computer different than the office clock? Do I go by the time on my computer or the time on the office clock? Is it 4:58? Can I go now?
Right, right, right. No, I think there's a path. I hate using the word starving artist because clearly I eat a lot. I'm a healthy individual, but like, right, there's a path. Yeah, there you go, there you go. There's a path we all set ourselves down, right? Where you do sort of leave any career-oriented world behind, and you dedicate yourself to your writing, and that means, especially as a poet, like. If I always joke, people are like, so why did you go into poetry? I was like, for the chicks and the money. Right? Like, come on, man. I'm a
Well,
poet.
yeah, and that's the
Uh,
Dana Snow had that, he coined the phrase, the multi-million-dollar poetry industry.
exactly, right? Like, you set on that path, and I think you use all that stuff as fuel. And one of my favorite things about, like, being a 9 to 5 worker, or 9 to 5, let's not lie to ourselves, you got to be there about 8 to 5 worker, was I work for this, it'll be at a nameless foundation on the west side. That's legally a good way to say it, I think. But I worked for this woman who was like a doctor in education, but she was also just like a really horrible person. And I wrote a poem about her, and it got published. And I was like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. I was very proud of myself in that moment.
Well,
But I think it's right. All those experiences are fuel, man. They're all fuel. Shitty jobs, the good jobs, they're all fuel.
well, like, I won't get too much into it here because I kind of promised I wouldn't, but like, the situation I went through with my daughter over the last like 10 years or so, just I had a poem just published in Spillway, and it was about getting let go of a job that I had for several years, let's just say in the Culver City area. And they were understanding to a point about what I was going through with like legal matters and stuff, but
Right.
then at a certain point they were not understanding.
Yeah, right.
And basically getting in the poem's called Exit Interview,
Excellent,
which
excellent.
was
That's
like after getting let go, they still want to get your opinion. Like, yes, but how do you think
right.
you handled it? Like, what do you mean? How did
Right,
you handle
exactly,
it? Like,
right.
we're professional in our demeanor, and I'm like, why am I still here?
Right, no,
Like, I got my
absolutely.
bank box sitting right behind me. Can I go now? Like,
Yeah,
does this walk of shame never end before I can get to my car?
right, right. It's like just let me, you said exit, right? Let's focus on that. Let's
I
talk about.
mean, and I would never put like my worst enemy through that, because it's just, to me, it's just to know that there's even something in corporate dogma that they want to get like that last jab.
Right,
Like
right.
he really reached into my asshole like a puppeteer, pulled out my soul, and then they're like, like, but tell us about like the stationary font, like,
Right.
catch your eye. I'm like, fuck out of my way, man.
Right. It's a corporate
Fix it
policy.
through the gift shop, right?
Right, exactly. Most corporations are there for there for you in words, and then when it comes to turn those words into action,
Hey, I'm going through a rough
they
time.
find some
Like,
out.
yeah, but your performance is suffering. I'm like, but I'm going through it. And they're like, yeah, 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 bye.
Yeah, right. Do you remember that thing when I started and you said about
Oh,
foster
this
family
expression
environment, all that?
too, and this expression is sad when because it really appeals to life. It applies to work and friends and sports, maybe even, or movies. It's the whole expression of like, what have you done for me lately?
Right, 100%,
I never
100%.
really had that experience until I moved to LA, and LA is pretty brutal, like in terms of like the companies, no matter what you do. Like, I never felt like in LA that the HR presence in a lot of
Yeah,
the LA and Orange County companies was prevalent or like as established as like Ohio, where I'm from, where they really are like, hey, let's go in the office and like let's talk about this and what's going on with you and this and that. And I've noticed in LA and Orange County, it's a lot of like, oh, we have an HR department. Like, where is the rep? Yeah, she's out. She'll be back
yeah,
like
right.
another time. Well, I kind of need to like talk about getting some time off. And they're like, oh, don't do that.
Yeah, right. No, 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 that's now you're a team player, right? You know,
Yeah,
you're
you're a team player, so and it totally comes back to Office Space, right? Like,
always
yeah,
that movie.
I need you
That
to
movie
come in
is
on Saturday.
right, right. That movie is still relevant today, man. Some things haven't changed, but I do think honestly, like, and I think I hate to say a good thing from COVID, but I guess we'll go with the yin and yang of it. Like, I think we're seeing a little bit of the undoing of that. Like, people are starting to realize that family home matters a little bit more, and workers are starting to strike back. Right,
Well, people have the power.
they're leaving us. Like, yeah, they're like, you know what? I need to work from home 3 days a week, and that's the way it's going to be, or I'm going to find a new job. And I think, it's about time the workers started, punching back a little bit.
And like you
So,
were saying, like I feel like the only danger for me for like working at home is that quarantine 15 that I put on, where it's like, oh,
oh, yeah.
the
Um,
workspace is a little bit too close to the fridge.
to the fridge, right? Right.
Like, oh,
Where,
I'm hungry. Like, oh, I just ate like 40 minutes ago. Oh, but I'm hungry again.
exactly. Who's the person in charge of stocking the fridge? Oh, wait. Oh, it's me. Oh, shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for the frozen Snicker bars. That's right.
So, before I forget, like, and everything that you've learned and kind of accomplished in like the last like 10 to 15 years, what is like some advice you would offer to like young people, not just for like writing or like self-publishing or open mics, but just kind of like in general? Because I kind of feel like I wish there were people like 20 years ago that to tell me like, don't do this and watch out for that.
Right, right. Yeah, I would just keep it simple, man. And I've had the opportunity through, a mutual friend of ours, Don Campbell, I worked with his program at Occidental College, Upward Bound, for about a decade straight. And it was just a wonderful experience because it was a chance to, talk to these kids who were, I want to say they ranged from like 14 to 17 years old, and you would read your poems, and then the best part of it, the kids would ask you these questions, and they were, they'd really dive deep, into how you felt about things, and it was always a fun way to kind of come outside yourself and see yourself through them, and then, take on that perception. But the advice I would give is to be dedicated to it, realize that, to get good at anything, you got to work at it and you have to do it. And then secondly is to just be yourself, right? Always,
Right.
always be yourself. Don't lose yourself in it. Like you were saying, don't try to be someone you're not. I think the other piece of advice I give is like everything has already been written, back to your point of like, a youngster sitting down, a young aspiring writer to sit down and be like, I am going to now write the great American novel or the great American poem. Like that's not, A, it's not realistic, and B, that's already been written. Just tell us about yourself, be yourself, you can only, give me your view, tell me what's happening in your world, because what is unique, like, you are unique, there is no other you, there's you. So let's use yourself as a vehicle to express yourself to the world. And then I think also, like, just don't take yourself too seriously. Back to what we said, like, realize, you're gonna get up to read the first time and you're gonna suck. You're gonna read a poem to that, girl or boy in the audience you have a crush on, and they're gonna go make out with someone else later. And then
Yeah.
just roll with it, right? Like, I think if you don't take yourself too seriously, you're always experiencing, and you're less, you're not getting hurt all the time, right? You're not getting hurt all the time. Just kind of realize that's part of the process.
Awesome. Well, I also appreciate that. Shout out to Don Campbell, because I want to say that more than maybe a lot of people, especially with the younger people, he is really great at promoting, and with his chapbooks that he puts out, and what is the monthly magazine or quarterly that he
Yeah,
puts?
he publishes a journal called Spectrum.
Oh, right,
Uh,
right, right.
yeah, and they do. He has it's online. Go check it out. And yeah, I love to talk about Don. Don's one of I think what you said. He's such a great promoter, and not only of all of us have to promote ourselves, and Don is really dedicated to the promotion of others, which I think is in of itself, right. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
really
it's
beautiful.
totally. It's
Yeah, and
right.
his when I first moved here and I dedicated myself to hitting the open mics. I made sure to go, we all in LA, right? We all get in our little bubble and we just stay there. But I, made a pact to myself that I'd go, go to Orange County and go out to San Gabriel Valley. And I'm really glad I took that trip out to Pasadena to read, because like have you read out there? Like he just
Oh
has
yeah,
this,
yeah. The
it's
public
like the
library.
quirkiest room. Yeah, it's the quirkiest room. And it's a reading that I appreciate, because you're reading. I've read to 12-year-olds to 90-year-olds at his reading, and it's just a little sort of a great great cross spectrum sort of
Oh yeah,
uh,
I mean,
group of poets and
yeah,
people.
he was kind enough to publish me. Oh God, I want to say how many years ago it's been, but 12, 15 years ago in the
Yeah,
San Gabriel Valley Poetry Review. So
yeah. Yeah, he's Don's been he's one of the godfathers of the scene for sure. He's been out there and doing it. He's still doing it. He's still
oh
doing it. They
yeah,
have,
well now that he's like retired from teaching, right? So now he can do full time.
yeah, full-time poet, and he's fantastic. So yeah, I always give a shout out to Don when I can, because I think he's one of the great ambassadors of the LA poetry scene.
For sure, for sure. So, what do you want to try to do with the next like 12 months? I mean, obviously working and being a dad and all that, but like creatively, is there things that you want to do, or like now that the cities are open, are there some places you haven't been that you're gonna maybe want to try to get out because you've got your book and everything now?
Yeah. I want to I want, like, once we get past this, I definitely want to get out and read and promote my book in person, and go back to the selling chapbooks for dollars at readings when back in the day when I used to staple my own work together and
I was
do
gonna
it.
put that up because I mean, have you noticed that the generation behind us doesn't really do that? They don't
Right,
really go
everything's
to Kinko's and do the 9 by 12, right?
right, or published to Kindle and stuff. But like, back to what we talked about earlier, like I write in, whether it's the smell of the ink, the feel of the paper, whatever it is, like, I want, till I check out and head into the next universe, I want to promote, like, just there's something about the feel, and especially poetry, I think, like, to sit down and read a book and feel it, and it's, yeah, I want to publish it.
And then, just when you were holding up the book before, and I'm so glad you didn't do one of the cheesy Zoom backgrounds, because when you hold up
Yeah,
your book, it would just blend in, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're holding up. Maybe
yeah,
you're a
no.
coaster.
Right.
But
Yeah, I'm still
I
embarrassed.
need is, I mean, I appreciate like with what we're going through in the world that people will, if I'm published, they'll send me like a PDF of whatever the magazine is, and that's great. But just to be able to hold up,
Right, absolutely, absolutely.
it's tangible, and you can flip through the pages, and like you said, the smell of the wood, it's from a tree, and it's it's a real thing. And I don't know. I mean, a lot of my
Yeah,
stuff,
sort of it's the smell, it's yeah. There's just something about a physical book, and then, like, also I want to go back and out, and speaking of physical, like, go back out and, like, establish that physical connection, because while Zoom readings are fantastic, like, there's something about uh, tapping that mic. Is this on? Okay, getting up there and doing our thing, right?
right.
Uh, so I want to get back out there and read, and also I'm looking for. It's been a while since I hosted a reading at a local gallery, so I'm always on the lookout for places that might be a cool place to have a little pop up a reading for a year or two, or however it can make it run.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
that's
down.
the
I'm
trick,
down here.
right?
My family, we've settled. I'm down here in the South Bay, so yeah, anytime I'm in a little quirky place, I'm like, keeping notes of trying to
What about
get
this over here?
yeah, I think it's I think it's important to don spirit, to get out there and like try to create that sense of community, and like, hey, come to my neighborhood and here's a place to read. Like
I think
poetry
it's really important, especially now more than ever, because
Absolutely.
not even because of COVID, but I want to go back to like even 2019 when people were still doing a lot of just open mics in general. There really weren't nearly as many as when I started like 10 or 15 years before that. It was,
Yeah, no, I agree. I
I don't know if
agree.
it's just like the corporate coffee shops, they don't want that element, or people trying to talk over conversations with a microphone, or I mean, even the one in Redondo Beach, every once in a while you're like, hey, the grinder's going, you got to just pause,
Right.
pause
Right.
for the grinder. But you know what's a really good one? I don't know if they're doing it anymore. I think they are. It's out in Riverside, Riverside, called Back to the Grind.
Okay.
It's right by the college.
Okay. Oh, by UC Riverside. Yeah, yeah.
But it's like in the basement of the cafe. So the first time I went, I got fucked over because nobody there was there to read. They were all just sitting there having their drinks and snacks, and I was like, oh man, I guess I went on the wrong night.
Here we go.
Told me every time, said, no, it's there, you got to go downstairs. I'm like, the hell is this? Are they making plutonium in the basement or something?
All
So
right.
I go around in the corner and the guy's like, this way. I'm like, what is like eyes wide shut shit? What's going on? And you go downstairs and they had like a raised platform, they had a mixing board, they had speakers, they had a mic, they had spotlights. I'm like, okay, I see what's going on. It's like, do you want to go to this reading? Like, really want to go? So it's like not like you had to be accepted into it, but
right,
it's
right.
like, oh, it's like for people who want to find it, they'll find it.
Right. No, 100%. I think, and I always found it, and I've been to so many amazing readings, that happen at coffee houses, but I always found it like a really odd marriage, where you're trying to, create some sort of intimate connection, sharing your poem or your short story, whatever it is you're sharing. And like, all of a sudden, Debbie, I feel my heart bleeds for you.
I remember one time I was
yeah, like what?
oh
No.
god, where was I think I was at someplace in I only went once, I think, in Athens, Georgia, when I was living in Georgia. And it was like a sandwich shop, kind of like a mom and pop, but in the back corner they had an open mic. And I just remember there was this big burly dude sitting at a table in front of me, and like I was starting to read, and I was just like, well, what I really needed to confess, and he was just like right into some iceberg lettuce and some pickles and carrots, and I was just,
Yeah, it's
and then
funny.
I was like, okay, I'll take that back. But and the guy was just like, it was like a big sub sandwich. I'm like, man, I'm just gonna read something else because this dude's gonna.
Yeah,
It's just
it's
no competition. I mean, the guy's there to eat, but I'm like, fuck.
all he's gonna hear is the crunching of the sandwich in his, jawbone, right? Like, oh,
Leaving
man.
the table open, like, okay, buddy.
This guy, I really that poem.
Oh, but so God, man, I can't believe we've been going for almost an hour. It's gone so fast. But I guess just as we wrap up here, take a few minutes and let people know like where they can find your work online. Like I know you have a website. I think you're on YouTube. You have social media. So go ahead and rattle those off.
Yeah, you can find me because I am 50 something years old. You can definitely I'm still very active on Facebook. I definitely still use it as a platform to share my random thoughts and musings, which definitely sometimes turn into poems, workable poems. So yeah, that's under my name, Scott Kaestner. I am on Instagram under the Mocha Lisa. My dog, the Mocha Lisa, on Instagram. That, like I said, that's been fun. Writing through my dog's perspective is sort of opened up a whole new world of writing. So check that out. And then I always encourage people. I'm published all over the online world, so I always encourage to just Google my name if you want to check out my
Amazon,
work.
right? You've got stuff.
You can Google Scott with 2 T's, Kaestner, Kaestner, poetry, and check out my musings out there in cyberspace. And
you have an official website too, right?
I don't. I just use.
Oh,
okay.
I thought you did, but maybe it was an old one.
No. I just use social media to promote when I publish that. Oh, and I also keep up on LinkedIn under my same name. Man, I sound really old. Like, follow me on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Follow me on LinkedIn, and maybe we'll go on a hayride this weekend.
Give me a job, yeah, I need it.
We're reading poems as we fall off.
Read you a poem for $10 on LinkedIn.
$10 and a piece of pie.
Right.
All right. Oh my God, man. Well, it was so great talking to you. I feel like it's been so long. Like once these things get opening up and like people can actually hop from like reading to reading, we'll have to like hang out and like get a beer and just like catch up and get a bunch of people together and just hit some readings, man.
Absolutely. I look forward to the day of the tribe getting back together, man. And
Yeah,
read a little bit, drink a little bit.
I can feel the sun coming through the window.
One of these days, man. One of these days, let's get over this hump. Healthy and well, man. Healthy and well.
Awesome. All right. Well, man, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and best of luck to you, man. I know you're going to be out there kicking ass sooner or later.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you to you. Appreciate the opportunity, man.
No problem, man. Say hi to everybody and take it easy.
Absolutely. Much love, man. Be good.
Bye.